guys, I'm Si and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Here on the channel we've got all sorts of podcasts from mental health, MMA, football, film, TV, conspiracy theories, and of course our unique series, My Story, where we interview athletes or actors, people from different professions. We take them through their careers and life. We've got a new episode dropping this Sunday with former WBO world champion Robbie Regan. Previous episodes in that series was with former Wales international Rhys Weston and former England cricketer Chris Lewis. We also have our series Unscripted and Uncensored, which is basically features every Cage Warriors fighter ever. There's just like all of them are on there, and a couple of UFC guys and a few others. So check them out. I'm talking some wrestling today, and I'm joined by Talksport U.S. editor Mr Alex McCarthy. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. All things considered, I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate. It's just weird time, isn't it? It's just weird. Like everything is weird.
I can't stop looking at myself in the camera, like, because I'm so used to having like a skin fade, and now I've got like, you know, the side of my hair is killing me.
That's it. And I'm gonna not stop playing with my hair because I normally have it up, and I just broke my bobble seconds before we press record. So it's just both going to be stood there looking at our hair.
It was mental and wild.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, it is. It's a weird time, but you know, it's trying to make the best of it, isn't it? It's like, how are you finding it working from home and the kids being off and everything?
Yeah, obviously I've got. Well, not obviously. People aren't obviously going to know, but I do have a 1 and a 3-year-old, but they're both very nearly at their birthdays. So my daughter will be 4 on May 2nd, and then my other daughter will be 2 in late June. So they're both wanting to get out, be active, and obviously it's terrible really having to keep them confined to the house and the garden. But we've had walks where we can feed the ducks and things like that, and my eldest is starting to enjoy kicking around the football, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I work from home fairly regularly anyway. I only really go into London Bridge 2 or 3 times a week. So it hasn't been that much of a difference. But doing my radio show, that is a bit, I don't think I've been on your show since that started. But,
No.
That has made it a bit different because the last couple of weeks I've done that from home. And as you're probably well aware, like not being able to be in studio, or, you know, it's very different to even putting the show together to actually doing it with a co-host. That's challenging. I'd much prefer to be in the studio if I could. But yeah, as far as my day-to-day and reporting from home and all of that stuff, it hasn't changed that much.
No, that's not too bad, is it? Yeah, I find doing recorded shows like remotely are not too bad, but I find doing the live show, which I do on a Monday with like the football show, which we do on a Monday, 7:30. Yeah. People watch it. Andy Campbell show. It's very, very good.
Good
nicely done. But I find it a bit more challenging because, or the thing which I find challenging about it is on my screen, I've got the chats from Twitter, Facebook, and Periscope all at the same time, all in the same thing.
Yeah.
And I find that really difficult because I'm looking at my screen on my left, trying to look at what I need to say. Also listening to Andy, or the last couple of weeks, it's been Kev McNaughton, but like listening to what they're saying, obviously to follow the conversation, and then also follow the live chat as well. I find that really difficult, which I'm used to it now, but the first couple of shows, when I look back at them, I could see myself kind of like going like that constantly, but maybe I'm a bit more used to it now. But like, I suppose it's different. It's different for you again, isn't it? Like, obviously you're used to doing yours in a studio, whereas I've only really done my podcasts remotely. Generally, there's a couple which I haven't released yet, which are like in-person ones, but how are you finding that, doing it remotely?
I mean, so the show's been really well received. Like, Talksport are very happy with how it's going at the moment. It seems that we're picking up fans every week, which is all you can really hope for. It's you know, when obviously with WrestleMania weekend, I had said to the main producers, hey, not many sports going on at the moment. What about giving us a bit more than our usual hour on the Sunday? That turned into 2 specials on Saturday and Sunday, which were essentially all like mine. I put them all together. I got all the guests, I got all the content. So while that was really cool, it was a little bit of pressure too, because it's like, oh man, if this sucks.
Yeah.
But,
It's all on you.
yeah, but it seems that they were really pleased with what we did. You know, we had Joe Coffey, I always want to call her Viper, Piper Niven. Who else did we have? Obviously Ric Flair. I'd done like a pre-record of him. We had a pre-record of Mark Dallas. We had Trent Seven. We had a pre-record of Big Show. Diamond Dallas Page came on it live. So like, considering that I basically only knew that the show was going ahead on maybe like Tuesday. But considering like we pulled it out of our ass on the week of, is, you know, I'm pretty happy. And obviously the Drew McIntyre appreciation hour, that went really well. Got loads of good stuff, good stories, and then obviously it capped it off with him getting the win. So it just would have been so much better though if I was there. Like if I was actually overseeing it and being able to have my input on it. You know, there's a lot of different things that go into a show that I didn't even really think about until I had a show. So would have been great if I could have been more hands on. But I'm still pleased, really pleased with how it came out. Very obviously grateful to Will Gavin, who was my co-host on this occasion. He's not the usual one, but he's done a good job for Alex Shane. And the producers as well, they've really got involved. So, you know, slowly perceptions are changing at TalkSport, which is great. With that has come more opportunities for me. You know, WWE, I don't think are shy about who they want to get the exposure with and give the opportunities to. And they want stations and sites that will give them more coverage. They have like a broader spectrum rather than just wrestling sites. So I think that's where working for TalkSport has worked in my favour. But by the same token, it hasn't really just been handed to me either. Like walking into TalkSport, wrestling was like at the bottom of the totem pole. So to be where we are now is really feels good. You know, just being able to talk to Ric Flair last week, Jesus. Like, you know, sometimes you look at that and you think, yeah, we've come quite a long way.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you've had some massive names on there in the weekend, and I agree with you that, like, WWE wants the biggest exposure that they can get, and work having it with TalkSport, you working for TalkSport is going to give you an advantage maybe over some others. But equally, like, I know from speaking to other people how should I phrase this without getting you into trouble? How much TalkSport really cared about wrestling compared to the majority of the other sports on their station. So the work that you've put in over the last, year, 2 years, however long, it's clear for anyone to see, because now there's a weekly show. You just did 2 shows, like a Saturday and Sunday show. And I'm sure people will say, oh, well, it's because there was because of the coronavirus and this, that, and well, it's not. It's because the show that you've been doing every week has been so well received that people, when you made the suggestion, they were open to it because it's been well received. If it had been doing terribly, they would have said, no, thanks.
I mean, what you just said then as well is right. Like the coronavirus, in a weird way, with WWE still running, in a perverse kind of way, it has worked out, because WWE, like, even our traffic on the site is up, and all of those things. But yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. If the show wasn't doing well, they wouldn't have given us that platform. The actual original idea that they wanted to do was cover it live. I don't know, you might have seen me tweet about this and asking for people's opinions. They wanted us to do like a live show, essentially commentating along with it, which I thought was just a terrible idea. Like it's not, it's not a terrible idea. I don't think at that time as well, it's not great. Like, if you're going to be up, you're going to be watching it. You're not going to be up having it muted and, I don't know, listening to what I think. So I just thought it'd be better to do a preview and review, and in my opinion, it's worked out pretty well. So yeah, like you just said, sure, some doors open, but we would have run on TalkSport 2 anyway, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think. What did you think of the overall show?
Mania. I was really pleased with it. I've seen some contrasting opinions on the cinematic matches and things of that nature, but for me, it's probably in like my top 5 Manias. It really is. Like, there's a lot of matches in there I really enjoyed. Now, just to kind of give you an overview, you can dip and dive in whenever you like, but I thought Charlotte and Rhea was extremely strong, probably the strongest women's match of the weekend. I don't agree with these assertions that Charlotte is burying anyone, or it's just another reason for her to reign on top. I really do think Rhea benefited from that match, and she will benefit moving forward. I spoke to Charlotte the next day. I definitely got that vibe. I feel like the ladder match was a show stealer. I thought Edge and Orton was an absolute classic. It just could have. I think if it lost about 10, 15 minutes, it would have been one of the matches of the year already. The opening and the end, I thought, were phenomenal. It was just that it kind of laboured a little bit when it was just strikes through the Performance Centre for like 10, 15 minutes. But otherwise, I'm not. That's being hypercritical. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like I sat there and I was like, "This is terrible." It's just a hypercriticism, I guess. But to them, it might have been part of engrossing you into the story. Who knows? I didn't like either of the title matches. Only the outcomes. Whether ends justifies the means, I guess. But I wanted Drew as the champ, and I didn't really care who was champ as long as it wasn't Goldberg. So from a fan's perspective, I got what I wanted. But I do think Brock and Drew could actually put on a banger of like a 10-minute banger. Without having to do these finisher fests, which both of them were. That's just not my cup of tea. It might be to some people, but it's just not for me. What about you, man?
So I'll start with what you finished on. The thing which bugs me about Brock is I get his character and I get that he's built up as like this unstoppable machine, etc., etc. But what kind of bugs me a little bit with him is Brock Lesnar is very capable of putting on an outstanding match.
Yeah, very capable, where Goldberg is not.
Yeah, so where I'm not saying that every time Brock Lesnar comes back, every couple of months he comes back and he has a feud, that he should have a 10-minute, 12-minute match. I'm not saying that. But when it's the right opponent, why didn't he have a similar match in terms of length that he had with like a Daniel Bryan or an AJ Styles in terms of length?
I guess their argument is that it makes Drew look strong having disposed of him that quickly, but I don't think that's. I think that perception is really dated. And I think more,
especially when you've had the exact same match the night before, literally
exactly. For the world title.
To me, that's a bit.
To me, the whole stigmatizing people is a bit of a dated concept in general. Like, you can build someone up through wrestling skills, and wrestling fans want to see great matches or inventive/creative finishes.
Yeah.
Neither world title match gave us something. It was very by the numbers when you just figure out that they were, chucking finishes around. That's the bare minimum. And I feel like for both matches to go in that way, I can understand Goldberg going that way because he truly can't do much else. But Brock and Drew, I felt like should have been more. But like I said, I was happy with both results, so I kind of just put a lid on it.
Yeah. I think for me, like in terms of the whole WrestleMania thing this time round, I've struggled, and I've said this on the Keeping It Real shows with Andrew Thompson. Like, I've struggled to get into these empty arena matches. Matches, like, no matter how good they are, some of them have been outstanding in terms of technical moves and psychology. I just struggle to really feel it, and I find it hard to get into it. So I went into this and I was looking at the matches on paper and I was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to a few of these matches because I'm interested in the build-up or the characters, but I'm not expecting to enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed every single match for different reasons, every single one. Some of the booking decisions I was a bit puzzled by. But then that was only on like one or two. The Charlotte and Rhea thing, I do think they would have been better served for Rhea to win. But I'm similar to you. I don't buy into this thing that Charlotte's like had everything handed to her on a plate and she's the golden child. Look, it's very clear that WWE wants her to beat her dad's record. It's clear, everyone knows that. They want her to beat the 16 times, and she will. But equally, there was a time she won the title and she lost it in the same night to the Money in the Bank winner. She hasn't always had the longest of reigns. It's not like when she gets it for 18 months and beats everyone. She's had quite a few short reigns, and I wouldn't be surprised if she drops it to Io Shirai to make Io Shirai look strong. I think,
the thing with that and Charlotte Flair is she is fully capable of having, having a few matches with the NXT talent and really helping bring some of them on. She said something very interesting to me on Monday, and it was that Rhea Ripley almost looked stronger in defeat for having gone toe to toe with Charlotte than maybe defending the title would have. You know what I mean? Like just hanging with someone of the caliber of Charlotte Flair, and I think that's a very true statement. I think that rub will benefit her in the long run. You have to remember, Rhea Ripley's 23.
I know, she's so young.
No rush for her to Charlotte Flair, 34, in her prime. There's no rush for Rhea Ripley to go over her. People are so short-sighted with that stuff sometimes, where they just want the result that they want. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Rhea Ripley fan, big fan. She's a huge talent, but I don't think it's the end of the world that she lost to a prime Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. No. I really don't.
I was more upset.
Very excited about that. Very.
Oh yeah. I was more upset. I was more bothered. I wouldn't say upset. I was more irked by Shayna Baszler losing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the window for Shayna Baszler is a lot shorter. Like I think she's 39.
I think she's 40, 39. But that's the thing. People NXT won at Survivor Series and were really strong, and then Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley both lose at WrestleMania. I'm not as high on Shayna Baszler as I am on, say, Rhea Ripley. That's not to say I don't like her, and I've made this argument before. I feel like if Ronda is coming back this year, which all signs point that at some point she probably will be, assuming this coronavirus stuff settles down, then building to her and Becky one-on-one is the natural thing to do. And in that scenario, you need Becky to look just as strong as when she last beat Ronda to help make that magnet. Do you know what I mean? Can an unbeaten Becky, can Ronda avenge the only loss she ever had? That's the draw there. There's no need to insert Shayna into that. Are you really going to have Shayna Baszler be the next dominant force in WWE? I'm not convinced that she was. I feel like she was built just to face Becky. And that, Simon, is always a recipe for disaster. When you build someone for someone, right? Yeah. Like after WrestleMania, they built Lacey Evans just to face Becky. Then you lose to Becky, then what do you do? Well, you've just lost the whole thing you were built for. So where do you go? You've gone to the top of the mountain already, and you fell. So
you failed.
When people do that, it's horrible. This is a terrible example I'm about to give you, but I'm going to do it anyway. When back in, I think it was 2000. When did Shield debut? 2012. 2012. Right. And Ryback had been running through people all year, and it's crazy. There's a lot of people who are probably watching this who will think Ryback wasn't over. Ryback was really over, like in 2012. But the fans were really hot for him, and CM Punk was being like this little snivelling heel. But Ryback was still squashing people, so you thought he was way far away from him, right? Then they had this. I can't remember what CM Punk did, but he was scurrying away backstage, and he runs in to Ryback, and it's one of them, where he knocks into him, and the camera pans up, and it's Ryback, and the crowd went crazy for it, and it was organic. Do you know what I mean? They didn't do all that work for Ryback to then meet CM Punk. They probably did that backstage thing just to see. I wonder how the crowd will react, and they went crazy for it. And that's when you've been building a character right, and then you can let them two characters meet. I mean, ultimately, okay, Ryback lost that, but what I'm saying is the intrigue was there because fans had already gotten on his side before that, whereas WWE were telling fans to get on side with Shayna Baszler. They're telling them she's a threat. They're not letting them work out for themselves. They're telling them she's dangerous. You got to watch her, and that doesn't. On this day and age, I'm not sure that washes.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's always that danger when you try and tell the fans who's the top star or who's the threat or who's this or who's that.
Telling them
I think
is dangerous.
Yeah, and I think
overtly anyway. But go on.
Yeah, with Shayna, I think my thing was I assumed that she was going to beat Becky. Becky was going to go away for a couple of months, and they were going to kind of do like that Rocky 3 story where she was going to come back after the loss, avenge the loss, and then Shayna would go and do her thing, and then Ronda would come back, and they would do it that way.
Yeah.
Because I assumed that they'd want to keep Shayna strong, and like she's been if you take out WrestleMania, she's been not many females have come in and been that strong ever.
Well, like in the last year, she's only lost to Rhea and Becky, isn't she?
Yeah. So it's not the worst thing in the world when you look at it from that point of view.
No.
I've got to ask you, because I know you haven't got a great deal of time, so I want to ask you about the Firefly Funhouse.
I'll give you 10 more minutes, mate. I'll give you 10 solid minutes. Go on.
Excellent. We'll spend it all on the Firefly Funhouse. What did you think of it?
I loved it, and I loved the Boneyard match. Both of them excellent. To a lesser degree, I loved Gargano and Ciampa from NXT last night. It was good, don't get me wrong, but they're following in some kind of steep footsteps after the last week for cinematic matches. I did like the ending though, but I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But I did like it. But yeah, Firefly Funhouse. I spoke with a guy from WWE, one of the guys I regularly speak to, and he said that he thought Cena was super giving, basically. That he done so much to make Bray Wyatt in those, for want of a better term, vignettes or whatever you want to call them.
I thought it was like a film. I did.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was like a journey, mini film.
It rewarded you for knowing both of their stories, right? Like Cena and his journey to where he is, and Wyatt and how they collided at Mania, how that affected Wyatt, and where everything played off from there. So I feel like it was a real reward for being invested in their stories. But even if you had never seen either of them, by that same token, it painted it all out for you. So I thought it did a wonderful job of helping both characters. Cena was clearly giving him the rub. That's a huge rub for Wyatt to get. And I just thought it was masterfully done, and also in a different tone to the Boneyard. It fit Wyatt. Yeah. Cena as well, kind of in a wacky role, was very, very well done. I just thought it was excellent, and the Fiend is in like a more powerful position than ever now because, when Cena comes back next, everyone's going to be like, man, what is he going to be changed? Like, what actually happened? It's when there's lots of questions, it's a good thing. Yeah,
so a couple of things I would say. First of all, I'll say the 3 cinematic matches which the WWE did. The best thing I like overall about them all is they're all different.
Yes,
I loved how different they all were because they could have easily just done a kind of lazy template of the final deletion for every single one and just inserted different characters with similar spots. But they didn't. They tailored them for the feuds specifically. And the Firefly Funhouse one I like as well, because if John Cena decides he never wants to come back, what a way to finish. I think he will come back.
He will, obviously he will. But
if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still, he might go away for a long time now. And then they can obviously tell a story when he comes back, and it can all kind of tie in. It's been done really well. But like you said, I felt like the hallmarks of it, so the Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard, suited both characters. Like the Undertaker's place seemed like his place, and the Firefly Funhouse seemed like Wyatt's place. I loved the little NWO sketch in the Firefly Funhouse that was teasing. It was basically linking back to Hogan joining the NWO and that massive heel turn, and representing Cena wanting to do that kind of thing, but but he never
turning heel.
do it, and then he's trying to vicariously do it. I thought that was magic, man. And yeah, brilliant, really brilliant stuff from the minds of, I mean, Bray Wyatt mainly, but Jeremy Barash and a couple of others. There's, they've all done a fantastic job there.
So creative. So one of my one of my listeners sent in a thing saying he wants to know your opinion. I talked about this a little bit with Andrew, but he wants to know if when Cena does come back, would it fit not just or the way that everything's gone with the Fiend? Cena's got to come back as a heel, really, because that's what the Fiend has changed in everyone. And he kind of laid out a big long thing, but basically the gist of it is Roman Reigns is getting beat down by wrestler X, whoever it may be at the time.
Everyone.
John Cena say a tag team, I don't know, whoever. A tag team's beating up Roman Reigns. John Cena's music hits. He comes down, everyone thinks he's coming to save Roman Reigns. And in fact, he turns on Roman Reigns, joins this tag team and forms not necessarily the NWO, like to 2020, but like a kind of super heel stable led by John Cena. I'm not sure if it would work in this day and age, but I think it would get people interested.
I think he'd get the biggest cheer of his career if he did that. And that's the thing. Like, it's WWE have probably always resisted on that premise, really, but it's interesting because you definitely could do I don't want to say like a Hollywood Rock, but you know what I mean? Like a snobby character. You could also do a darker character with that is kind of aligned with Bray. I'd love it if he was kind of a permanent fixture in the Firefly Funhouse now. You know what I mean? Like a puppet of him. And same as like Vince's and all the others. And just to keep it moving along, just to explain it a bit, because you don't want to. That's the thing. Like, you don't want it to just be, the Fiend's back next week, and he's, you know what I mean? There's no mention.
Yeah.
For me, it's Cena. I'd love a heel Cena because he's perfectly capable. I do think that was sowing the seeds a little, and I do think the fact that he's playing a bad guy in the Fast franchise
helps.
Is a good time. Do you know what I mean? If he's finally embracing that in any capacity, then I think it's a good time. How he does it, forming a stable, that would also be great because, anyone getting the rub of Cena would be sensational. I'm just not sure. It would, it's hard to say who's the most beloved person in WWE today, but as much as I'd love it to be Reigns, I don't know. But he would have to, he'd probably have to crap on multiple people, I would say.
Yeah, I think he'd probably have to start with maybe a Reigns and then attack or cut some promos on some beloved baby faces to make just to cement the booze. But I think Bray Wyatt's one of the in terms of character, like people do like the Fiend's character, and I think that's why so many people were up in arms about the Goldberg thing, is because so many people have enjoyed the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse and that sort of thing.
Let me touch on Goldberg quickly. Now, you see the reports come out yesterday, right, from Wrestle Talk and WrestleZone.
That he refused to lose. Is that right?
It's ridiculous, right? They're saying he refused to lose to Wyatt, and then he refused to beat Strowman because he didn't want to work any more dates in 2020. That's a load.
I don't believe that.
I spoke to people in WWE. That's a load of rubbish. He's going to be working whenever the next Saudi show is. He's going to work it. So this whole doesn't want to work in 2020 again doesn't make sense. The Wyatt thing is ridiculous. The whole idea that he was brought in the first place was to beat Wyatt so that they could then get a positive reaction for Reigns at WrestleMania. It's essentially the whole premise. And they wanted to move the Fiend onto Cena. That was a plan that they always wanted to do. And although the original idea was, maybe you could have Cena going for the 17th title, they couldn't think of a way to get to that. Like, they didn't want
there wasn't a way that they didn't have any time to get Cena on TV to earn it, or do you know what I mean? And to build it. So they were like, we'll just make it for not the title, and we'll have Reigns and Goldberg. Sounds good on paper. Obviously, it didn't work out because, if I'd seen Reigns run through Goldberg, I'd have been happy as anything. Wouldn't have mattered to me.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is everything that they planned out obviously didn't really work out. And they didn't need to bring in Goldberg at all on reflection. But, it is what it is. Nobody could have predicted where we are now. So, yeah, it's a shame. But anyway, what I wanted to say about that is the reports on Goldberg. We know I'm not a big Goldberg in-ring fan, but doesn't mean he deserves all this slander as if he walks around backstage saying, not losing to that guy, not losing to that guy. He doesn't do that.
I agree with that. I'm not a fan of Goldberg. I never have been. But I think the fact is especially with those Saudi shows, is that guys like Goldberg and Lesnar get paid so much money to do them, they will effectively do whatever they are told.
Yeah.
Within reason. And Brock Lesnar's always said himself, is he'll lose to anyone, just as long as he gets, whatever they've agreed to pay him.
I know we've had this discussion before as well, but you have to think to yourself, how many moles are there in WWE? Seriously, have you ever sat there and looked at the amount of people that say sources?
Got a source, yeah.
Yeah, sources. Seriously, man, how many? I don't want to swear. How many people?
No, you're right.
How many people do you honestly think are in WWE trying to tell people things? For me, obviously, I've been interviewing wrestlers for 5 years plus now, and I've gotten to know a few people either in networks attached to the company, or some people inside of it that I've just met from going to America, doing all these things, going to shows, doing all these interviews. You get to know certain people, and even I am far less connected than some other people in this world, right? And then you get these people, and I feel like I'm going to sling mud. I don't really want to, but they don't really go to shows. They just work for little websites out of nowhere. They've got sorts. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah. I don't buy it. And people need to think before they start jumping on the bandwagon. And I was trying to say that in my tweets yesterday about Goldberg. I was basically I said in the first one, that's some alleged sway. Do people really believe that he could walk around backstage and say, no, change the Mania plans. I don't want to lose to that guy. And I just want fans to be more considered about their sources. And that's by no means saying, follow me, I'm the Messiah. But I'm just saying, be careful of what you do consume, because everyone is looking for that route. What gets you clicks is rumors, right? And news and inside scoops. Not everyone has them. And a lot of journalists know that's a way to get ahead and that's a way to get clicks. And honestly, it's not a good sight.
Oh, I agree with you, and I know we talked about it before, so I'm not gonna. And I know we're coming up on time now, but I will say is these people who go for the clicks over quality of reporting is, yes, they get found out eventually in the midterm because people realize they're full of crap.
Well, did you see that Brad Shepherd has taken a step back, apparently?
Oh, well, that's because he's been found out and people have realized that he's full of shit. Precisely
that. But actually, I don't even follow him, but someone sent me the screenshots the other day of him doing this long essay. In fact, it was Ryan Saturn who sent me the screenshots. And it was of him saying in a really convoluted way that essentially he wasn't going to be doing what he's been doing anymore, which
surprise.
Is fine. Which is fine. It's just, but like you just said, eventually, I think Bill Batty was a guy back in the day as well. They all get found out eventually.
Yeah. What surprises me is some of the bigger networks, or not necessarily networks like TalkSport or NBC or people like that, but I mean bigger websites which maybe don't do their due diligence and then attach themselves to these guys who are clearly making stuff like that. That baffles me.
Look, I've inboxed Adam Pacitti at Cultaholic before and said, I'm not going to say what the journalist who it is, but I've said don't use that guy. You're running that report.
You're better than that.
But I can tell you, I know that that's wrong, and that he's, and I've spoken. Even WWE have told me a few of the guys they've seen on the circuit that again, I'm not going to name the name, but
Yeah,
funnily enough, it's the same guy. One of the PR guys was telling me yesterday that are coming out of Mania, so they were like, we're going to try and stamp down on some of these reporting now. And somebody had put out a video.
Do you know what would do that though, mate? Do you know what would WWE could do to stop the shitty reporting? Is to give interviews and time to websites who are good, like whether it's yourself, whether it's Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp, or it's Ryan Satin, or some of those other people. And I did notice, obviously, you get interviews. Ryan is obviously working with Fox, so he gets a certain amount of access. I did notice that Kofi Kingston was on Fightful the other day.
Yeah.
So whether that's part of their strategy, and I think that's a very good strategy to not only stamp out the shit ones.
You'll have to talk to Sean about that. But he spoke to me after it, and there is a story behind it. But you'll have to ask Sean because it's not.
I will.
But we, and I've spoken to Sean and many others about WWE and the way their PR reaches out and the way they view. Goes back to what we said at the beginning of the interview, the way they view the outlets and things like that. And I do feel like that's what my reputation's kind of been built on at this point, that I've handled the interviews well. And yeah, you get some of these ridiculous people online calling you bootlickers and shills and whatever. Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. It's part of it. If that's what they want to say, I mean, what do they think I'm going to do? Like, it's not biting the hand that feeds you because I don't work for them. But at the same time, it'd be stupid if I was just crapping on everything WWE did. But at the same time, I'm a positive wrestling fan anyway. So it doesn't bother me. But anyway, the point I was getting at is that they do filter talent around, and I think that WWE have some expectations, but these websites, and I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like I don't know, like a Ringside News, for instance, which is terrible,
the worst of the worst.
But let's just use them as an example. They have to, because they don't have that, and they are who they are. They have to make their own news, and it's crazy that some fans will still go there and look at their stuff. I don't really understand it, but whether you can get concrete stuff either from the horse's mouth because guys like me, Sean, and Ryan have spoken to the superstars, or we're at events, we're seeing what's going on, we're speaking to production people, we know what's happening at shows and behind the scenes, like by and large. So I guess I would just encourage people to use their brain in that aspect. But that's not to say there aren't a lot of good people out there doing work. You have to figure it out yourself.
Find them.
Gary Cassidy is a guy I like very much. Not sure why he's selling hoodies of himself. I'm sure we'll get into that next time I see him. But his interview work and his work rate is very, very good. Something that I like. Like, he's a guy that I would welcome on my team any day at Sportskeeda. And there are several different guys. Stephanie Chase is another one. People talk about a lack of women in journalism, particularly wrestling journalism. She's the best there is in the UK, in my opinion. Knows New Japan, knows AEW like the back of her hand. Again, if I had a spot at TalkSport and I could pay her, I'd bring her in a heartbeat. So there are people that you should be giving attention to, but then there's a lot of people that are, for want of a better term, trying to fool fans, and that's a part of wrestling that it bugs me.
Yeah, I agree. So just to finish off, I will say one final point on this. Obviously, I do a podcast, a regular wrestling podcast with Andrew Thompson, who used to work for Fightful, works for Post Wrestling now, and he's an excellent reporter.
Post Wrestling, where John Pollock is, right?
Yeah.
John Pollock's fantastic. But anyway, continue.
And Andrew, he's only I think he's 23. He's one of the best young writers out there. Superb, and he's a very, very funny guy. I love doing a podcast with him. He just we kind of just fell into it. Yeah. It's like we did one, and then we just should we do another one next week? And then there we go.
But you know what? Even just his grounding at Fightful and Post, I would give him the time of day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. But you know what? We were talking about this thing about WWE and how hard it is for people like him to get interviews. And he said, and then you'll get like the conference calls, and so every now and again they'll let some of these, for lack of the better terms, cowboys on, and they'll ask really inappropriate questions. So like the way he says it is like, Andrew will say, like, if I get a chance to interview someone from WWE, I'm not going to start asking them when their contract's out, and if they've spoken to anyone from AEW, or, you know, all the questions which, maybe fans would like to hear, but it's perhaps not the time and the place to ask it when you're on a WWE conference call.
Yes.
You know, if you get to interview them in a different setting, fine, but don't. It's not about biting the hand that feeds you, because they don't pay you for it, or they don't pay you to interview them or whatever. You don't work for them, but it's about being appropriate in your setting.
Well, you're right though. Like, it's not the bite of the hand that feeds you, but it's the sentiment is kind of appropriate. The metaphor, because at the end of the day, if you want that access, which will in turn improve your workspace,
yep,
then you've got to play by the rules. I'm afraid. Like that's how it is. I'm not sure what people expect. I honestly don't.
Yeah. It's not even like they might give you a list of questions saying, don't ask this, don't ask this, don't ask this. It's like, use your brain. You know what?
I've never had a WWE interview. Never ever had a WWE interview where they've said, "Send me your questions beforehand." Never once. Yeah. Whereas in AEW, I have to send them an email with a list of topics, not necessarily the question, but topics. Now that sounds like a slant to AEW, but it's not, because I've never sent them a topic they've sent back and gone that. And some of them I've thought they might not like that, but because it's talking about WWE and all this stuff. Like when I interviewed Cody, and I thought maybe they're not going to like that, but I thought, fuck it, I'm going to give it a go anyway. And never once have AEW said no. I think they just like to be prepared, which is fine. But WWE, I've never had somebody say no. Let me know what you're going to be asking them beforehand. And sometimes I've offered, and they're like, no. So, like you said, it's just about being sensible and playing by the rules. And if I could give any advice to anyone, to the position I'm in now, where I'm interviewing people several times a week, just in the last 7 days, I've had Ric Flair, Charlotte Flair, Gallus tomorrow morning, and then obviously there's people who've been on my show. And it is about building equity with those companies and within the industry, and and not only that, I found myself a good platform too. So it's like you have to tick all the boxes really if you want to get that kind of access. But I still get myself on those conference calls from time to time, mate.
That's the one. That's the one, mate. That's the one. Right, Alex, tell the people where they can find your show, find you on social media, find all your stuff.
Man, my hair's driving me crazy right now.
You need some beautiful hair like this.
Yeah, well, I wish I did have hair like that. It's going to be like that before long.
Silky smooth.
So I'm Alex M_TalkSport on Twitter. I'm exactly the same on Instagram, but I'm really not worth following. And then, of course, I've got my radio show, Talk Wrestling, on Talksport 2, and that is 9 till 10 every Sunday. And that's a phone-in, so fans get their chance to tell us what they think. As we've discussed in this interview, I get plenty of guests as well. And we have the quiz, which has become my personal favourite. So, yeah, it's a really great time with Talksport, banging online. Got the radio show going. Hopefully when this coronavirus stuff is over, there'll be more out in the field, at shows, doing interviews. That's what I love the most. So let's hope we get back to that. But until then, you're going to have to deal with me on the radio and online, I'm afraid.
Good stuff. Guys, I highly recommend you check out Alex on Twitter. Very funny. And check out his radio show as well. It's very, very good. Just very quickly, guys, check out Away Day Apparel. www.awaydayapparel.co.uk, and especially for viewers and listeners of Ace Podcast Nation, if you use the code all in lowercase AA Podcast Nation, you get 10% off all your orders. YouTube.com.
Is that what you're wearing now?
It is, yeah. And I've got a flag for you as well. They got loads of good stuff.
I like it.
Speak to me after the show, my friend, and I'll sort you some stuff out. And also youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Subscribe. It's the hardest thing I found to build up. I've got like nearly 9,000 followers on Facebook now, but the YouTube is like just slowly building. It's weird how it goes, but there we go.
My YouTube channel, I haven't really paid the love to it that I should. But I did put a Bianca Belair video on yesterday. It was like the first, and the one before that, I think, was Jeff Jarrett. And then I hadn't done one in about a month before that. And I've still got like nearly 500 subscribers. And I think, God, if I can just get that to 1,000 and start monetizing.
Well, that's the same as me. I'm like creeping up. I think I'm up to about just under 700 now.
Yeah.
But like one of my biggest issues I'm having is that like my viewers and my listeners, they're kind of like spread over both.
Yes.
So like a lot of the people who watch the Andy Campbell show, they watch it. And then quite a few download it. But then some of the other shows, they all download it and don't really watch it. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. But there we go.
No, you're right. Because for me, like Twitter is probably the main hub for me. And then as I've got more, so I wasn't even putting videos up, like I said, for weeks. But then as I was getting more followers on Twitter, then out of nowhere I'm getting subscribers on YouTube. And I'm thinking, well, they must be linked. And then I'm getting followers on Instagram again, and I'm a terrible Instagrammer. Unless you want to see me walking my kids around, there's not much going on, especially at this time.
Yeah, I literally joined Instagram about 3 weeks ago. For the first time ever.
It's hard going, mate. But that's the thing about growing these platforms. I feel like if you're consistent and you keep doing a good job, you get there eventually.
Yeah, I'm happy to grow. Like I also joined LinkedIn a couple of months back. And I've had loads of like these podcasting agency people from all over the place in America and India contacting me. Would you like us to get your podcast into the iTunes charts and this and that and that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't even reply because I don't want to know how much they'll try and charge. And also, I'm proud of the fact that everything which I've got, everything which I've built, I've done organically without having to like buy downloads or subscribers or followers or anything like that.
It's mental, by the way, that you can do that, right?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous.
Like I see some people on Twitter, and again, I'm not going to name names, and they've got like tens of thousands of followers, but their engagements are like dog shit, and you just think, come on, like it's what? Why do that?
Makes no sense to me.
I'm very impressed with even just this layout. I wish my YouTube channel looked as good as this.
Yeah, I've changed again, haven't I? I think the last time I did it with you, I was on Zoom, wasn't I?
Yes.
And I really, do you know what? I really like Zoom. I like everything about it, but you can't do like the name things and the logos and stuff on it. We're in the recording, and you can't do the video clips at the start and the end in the recording.
You know,
in a live.
In the UK, WWE are using Zoom now.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because it's exceptionally stable. And what I liked about it is it records audio and video separate, and it also records my audio and your audio.
Yes.
So like that's exceptional for what I was doing.
Especially when you're going and editing, and like it's awful when you've just got one audio, but your line might be good and theirs is terrible, and you're trying to boost the audio, but you've only got one line. It's when I interviewed Robbie Regan, my line was really clear and crystal clear. His video was really crystal clear, but his audio was really quiet, so I had to go through and like fix it and stuff. But I like StreamYard because I can, like, with the edit, even with this where I've got to go in and change the name tag and stuff, it'll take about an hour, whereas with Zoom, when I had to put everything in and then export it and stuff, it would take fucking 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It's very time consuming. So I'd rather have this, and then I can just all done. And I can do it in a live broadcast as well with like video clips. And guys, thanks for listening and watching. Check out Alex's on Twitter and his YouTube channel and his radio show, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and check out Ace Podcast Nation on all of the platforms. Cheers, guys, and Alex, cheers for your time. Thank you very much, bud. Always a pleasure.